You've survived another week. Thank you for listening, downloading, and supporting the Black Man with the Gun Show podcast. Hi, I'm Ken Blanchard, and this week I want to give you 3 reasons to buy an LWRCI rifle and what I learned in Cambridge, Maryland. Some history about Harriet Tubman. Michael J. Woodland talks about building an AR. And I want to give a special shout out to the women of the Women's Gun Show podcast. And you for finding me on the internet. There's like a gazillion podcasts now. And even though I've been here since 2007, I'm kind of lost in the crowd. But I'm here. I'm holding the line. Drop the beat. This is a weekly podcast for the mature and the cool people in the gun community. The show's title is to inspire, not to incite. My name is Ken Blanchard. I'm a gun rights activist, an author, a trainer, and a professional speaker, showcasing the diversity of the gun culture with experts in hunting, gun rights, the justice system, American history, and self-defense. And it's done all with compassion for all people. Welcome to the show. You know, sometimes I wonder why I'm still here in Maryland, but I had a long time to think about it, actually. I was born in the Commonwealth of Virginia in the rural Tidewater area, and whenever I wasn't in school, I was down in the country. Yeah. So I went to elementary school and junior high school and high school here, and then I ran away to the Marine Corps at the age of 17. And after 5 years of fun, I came back to the Maryland, D.C., Virginia area looking for a job, and I found one. This place is full of jobs, and that's probably the reason why I stayed. Housing was not as expensive as it could have been in some other places, so I stuck around in the Maryland side. And I bought my first house here, my second house here, and I raised 2 adults here, 2 kids grew up here, and next thing I know, I was here for years. But it's not a good state for gun rights. It's not a good state for taxes. We got corrupt politicians. Well, they're everywhere, but we got them here too. But now, as I approach the retirement age, I'm looking to go somewhere else. But somewhere else doesn't look always that good, you know? I've learned over a lifetime that the grass is only greener behind an outhouse or in your mind. So I've been battling it out. I remember doing the concealed carry reform across the country and having success in all these other states and then coming home to Maryland and bombing out. But one of my strongest points is hope and patience. I want to give a quick shout out to all of my patrons, those who are sacrificing a few dollars every month to make sure this podcast and my blog and all that I'm doing stays. Shoot, just keep going. And you can help too if you want to by going to Patreon, patreon.com/Black Man with a Gun. And every little bit helps. Something funky happened last week. I put the podcast out on Thursday evening, and that thing didn't come out on a couple of different aggregators until 5 days later. So I don't know what happened there. If you subscribe to the podcast, you probably got it immediately. But if you didn't, I got to see what happened. Maybe the picture that I put on the link was too big and it was too slow or something. So I'm not going to do any pictures this week and see if that speeds up the process. I try really hard to release an episode every Friday, barring anything happening at my job or in life. I'm a real personal kind of guy, and I do this from the basement of my home, and I get out as much as I can to get new stuff to share with you and to help you survive another week. We'd love to hear from you. Don't have to be shy. If you want to send me an email, you can at blackmanwithagun@gmail.com, and it'll come right to me. Or you can actually leave a voice message. There is a speak pipe button on the website. You can just use your microphone on your computer once you're at blackmanwithagun.com and leave me a voice message as well. It's like that easy. This week, we're going to get into a little bit of social help. I actually ran to a company that I really, really like, and I'm hoping that we become partners in this thing. I watched them help women of the firearms community do something I've never seen before. And then just what they're doing social good in the neighborhood of Cambridge and the Eastern Shore really impressed me. The fact that they're helping folks who look like me, poor black and white people in that area, mean something to me. More than the cool new gun, more than a gun that's like a freaking Ferrari. The fact that they're doing good in the state matters to me. So, in this episode, I hope I give you at least 3 reasons to start to support LWRCI International, a company you may have never heard of or just glossed over. Check out their rifles when you get a chance. The Black Man with a Gun show was created to stay in contact with the many people I've met as a gun rights activist since 1981. On this podcast, you'll hear defensive gun use, firearms training tips for the new shooters, and reminders for the advanced. We are protecting the rights of all gun owners and providing little known or forgotten facts about American history. We share news you can use, interviews with interesting people that you don't always hear, with entertaining pieces from all over the nation. I'm trying to leave you with some positive encouragement. That is what the Black Man with a Gun podcast is all about. And I do it all with a little help from my friends. What would you do if I sang out of tune? Would you stand up and walk out on me? Lend me your ears and I'll sing you a song. And I'll try not to sing out of key. No, I get by with a little help from my friends. I get a little help from my friends. I get a little help from my friends. Whoa. Last week about this time, I got an invitation to go to LWRCI International in Cambridge, Maryland, after I produced the Women's Gun Show and the Black Man with the Gun Show episode number 531. So I rushed out the door, packed my bags, and drove over the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, enjoying the rural farming and the old town of Cambridge, Maryland. Got a chance to stay overnight, and then in the morning tour the LWRC factory at their request. It was kind of cool. LWRCI International makes high performance rifles and parts for other firearms companies, and they have a couple of defense contracts themselves. They moved from Virginia to the gun-unfriendly state of Maryland on purpose. LWRCI put factories in the impoverished land of Harriet Tubman's Eastern Shore. For many people, this was a forgotten place. Located in 2 locations that used to be only rural farmland, chicken farms and the Sojourner Truth College, now is a thriving business. So between DC and OC is LWRCI. Second only to the Purdue Poultry Empire is this company. When I walked the plant floor watching millions of dollars worth of equipment and Corvette-like attention to detail being put into every build, I saw happy people. Really happy people. Not like the ones I see daily that don't want to work, but I saw people, African Americans mostly, that were truly happy to be employed. This company makes expensive firearms. I'm going to give you at least 3 reasons why you should buy something from LWRCI. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Now, you know I like a little bit of history, right? Well, let me tell you about this city called Cambridge. It was settled by English colonists in 1684. It's one of the oldest colonial cities in Maryland. At the time of the English colonization, the Algonquian-speaking Choptank Indians were already living along the river of the same name. During the colonial years, the English colonists developed farming on the eastern shore. The largest plantations there were devoted first to tobacco and then mixed farming. Planters bought enslaved Africans to farm tobacco and mixed farming. The town was a trading center for the area. The town pier was the center for slave trading for the region. It's a sad history, but it's documented all over the place with historical markers throughout the town center. It was incorporated officially in 1793 and occupies part of the former Choptank Indian Reservation, Cambridge was named after the town and the county in England. This town became a stop on the Underground Railroad, which had an extensive network of safe houses for slaves escaping to the north. This city, Cambridge, that when I grew up, it was a ghost town. You just kind of flew by it and made sure you didn't get stopped by state police on your way to the beach. It developed food processing industries in the late 19th century, canning oysters, tomatoes, sweet potatoes. It was led by a company called Phillips back in the day. They won some contracts with the Department of Defense during the First and Second World Wars. And when that died, the town died. And then by 1960s, this place was really, really bad. Wide-scale unemployment added to all the social problems of the civil rights era. It was a center of protest between 62 and 67 in this area. African Americans sought equal access to employment and housing. They also sought to end racial segregation of schools and other public accommodations. Riots erupted in Cambridge in 1963 and 1967, where the National Guard was deployed to the city to assist local cops and peacekeeping efforts. The leader of this time was a lady by the name of Gloria Richardson, and the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, public segregation in Cambridge officially ended. But the scars of the Civil Rights era lasted throughout my teenhood, my childhood. And somewhere around 2002, maybe 2003, is when LWRCI, I believe, moved to this dead spot on the Eastern Shore and helped revitalize it. One of the people I wanted to meet when I was there was the owner, Richard Bernstein, who has started a whole bunch of ventures in Maryland and created probably over 3,000 jobs over the last 40 years. He's made Salisbury, Maryland, the center of microwave filter technology manufacturing for the world, with companies like K&L Microwave, LWRCI Microwave, and other companies in the area like BAI Aerosystems, Salisbury Pewter, Machining Technologies, or Maytech, and the dude's got some real estate all throughout the Eastern Shore. He's helped real people where the medium income level and the unemployment rate and the number of people living below the poverty level were so extreme, you couldn't even tell you were in the same state. He's influenced millions of commercial investment and has influenced 3 Eastern Shore colleges. In a college course that I took once for creative writing, I was asked, what would I do if I won $1 million? And what I said, people just kind of looked at me funny. I said that after I got rid of my own debt, I wanted to create a business that would save a community. It would employ people and allow them the opportunity for a better life. I would set it up so that it made money, but I wouldn't care if I got rich from it or not. The purpose was truly to help families. And I just found a company that's doing that, and it's in the firearms community. LWRCI International. They make high-performance rifle parts right here in the gun-unfriendly state of Maryland. So I'm in the factory, right? And I'm walking around, I'm looking at people, I'm taking pictures of all this stuff. It's hot as a big dog in there. And I see this smiling, mature woman named Wanda working on the start of the barrel process. Now, this barrel is unique. If you look at an LWRC barrel, it's fluted. It's twisted, looks like a Twizzler. And the reason for that is to help with the heat, and plus it looks cool. And it lightens the barrel as well without reducing strength. So here's this old lady. Well, I ain't gonna say she's old. She's mature, right? And then I walk a little further and I see a younger one overlooking the process of cleaning a part. And I enjoy watching several men that look like me taking pride in doing their job in the process of making a superior product. Yeah, this rifle costs more, but it's made by U.S. citizens in the U.S. Yeah, you can buy an AR for 1/3 the price, but except for the fact that the bullets you can use are the same, there are a lot of differences. So you can buy a Nissan Versa to go to work, or you can ride a Tesla Model S. Both the Timex and the Rolex tell time. So what's the difference? It's you. See, I've seen it. Here, you're paying for quality products. You're paying for technology. You're paying to employ Americans. You're paying for personal attention to detail and a firearm you can trust. One of the big reasons I got invited to LWRCI is to witness the unveiling of a rifle built for women. Now, over 100 women submitted input on what they wanted in a combat functioning AR rifle. So this is not just some paint job, just paint it pink and give it to women. This was, well, it's like an insult actually when companies do that. They just slap some stuff together without direct input from their customers. Well, see, LWRC didn't do that. This design was led by Carrie Lightfoot, head of the Well-Armed Woman and co-host of the Women's Gun Show podcast. They call it the Diadem, the Lady Direct Impingement Rifle. Its barrel is 16.1 inches, the weight 6.5, the length, depending on the stock, 32 to 35.4 inches. It's exclusive. They're having a limited edition to this thing, and the first 1,000 rifles will be only for the members of the Well-Armed Women group, and after that, it'll be open to the public. It's custom designed. It's a slimmer rail engineered for women's shooters. Has some proprietary stuff on it. Has ambidextrous charging handles. It's got some Magpul stuff, some ergo grips kind of stuff. It's everything on here is made for a person of smaller stature to handle a battle rifle. I mean, it's just, I shot the thing. Nice. It was 5.56 NATO round. The only thing that makes this thing a woman's gun, per se, is that it has the Well-Armed Woman logo on the magwell. And it has a kind of a cool purple trigger that's been Cerakoted on there. That's the mark of the Well-Armed Woman, that color. The rest of it, battle black. And the LWRC is actually going to donate $75 to each Well-Armed Woman chapter. See, how cool is that? It's more than just a design, and they're actually giving back to the community that they've been working with. That's what kind of drew me there. Seeing a group of firearms people actually walk the walk and not just talk the talk. LWRCI actually stands for Land Warfare Resources Corporation. It was started way back in 1999. It went through a couple different hands before Mr. Bernstein grabbed it. If you Google, there's some stories and some characters in the background that fought it and made different whatever. I don't care. I saw what I saw, and I see where the company is right now. And where it is right now, I like this place. I like these people. And I most definitely like these guns. Let me tell you about those. If you're looking at Facebook or at Instagram, in the last couple of weeks, I've been posting photos of me actually shooting some of these rifles. Talk about three real quick. And I just talked about the Diadem, the Well-Armed Woman firearm, the 5.56. But also, when I was in the factory, I was looking at this rifle, looked like it came out of the movies. It was called a Reaper, and it's a sniper rifle, 7.62, 308. It had the same barrel as the Diadem, the ladies' gun, the 16-inch barrel. But this thing was 9.3 pounds, and we had a big old beast of a scope on it from a company called Night Force. And I've never used that optical before, and not too familiar with glass, actually. So it's like a learning thing. But they had different ones on each rifle out there. They had the Night Force, they had the Leopold, they had a couple of aim points. Now, right now, it is hot, and hot like only can be in this area. But it was the start of the hot day, and we actually shot on a private island out in Cambridge, or near Cambridge. Didn't even know it existed. Yeah, at about 100-yard range, shooting steel, and I got a chance to shoot this rapid engagement precision rifle, also known as Reaper. You ever look at something and kind of fall in love with it, and then you take it out on the range and go, damn, this is not no cheap gun. This would be a alternative to a bolt gun. Wouldn't be too bad for actually a hunting rifle. It has a short stroke gas piston operating system, and it was all about business. It's close to $3,700 gun. And the scope that was on it, the Land Force Beast, was about the same price. So between the glass and the gun, $7,500. Ouch. And we had a whole bunch of different size magazines out there for you Facebook people who making comments about having the small magazines. That wasn't the point. We were just loading the magazines that were there. They were all different sizes, 5, 10, 30 round magazines. The gun I liked a lot that I didn't know anything about was also the 6.8 special that they had out there. It was developed as an enhanced rifle cartridge to kind of be in between the 5.56 and the 7.62. And according to the guys out there, it's a really good hog gun. And it has a lot of knockdown power. With all these rifles, the way they were working, the kick wasn't the same as it is in a bolt. You could actually shoot it and not... I had no pains when it was over, except for heat stroke, but none from the recoil. I think in the older days, the 6.8 had some issues with magazines, but LWRCI fixed that, and they got their own magazine so that everything works like it's supposed to. I created a short video that I'm going to put on blackmanwiththegun.com's webpage for this episode, and I'm going to let you hear the audio here, an explanation about the system itself. All right, I am with Adam Mack from LWRCI, and we're going to talk about this gun, man. This gun is off the chain.
What we have here is one of our M6 IC A5s. This is our individual carbine family of rifles. The A5, it has the adjustable gas block, so it's got a 2-position block. You got a suppressed setting and an unsuppressed setting. Everything behind there, we have the same ambi controls as any of our other 5.56 and 6.8, and now our new Reaper Mark II models. You've got the ambi bolt catch and release. It's on each side. You got the ambi mag release on each side and the ambi selector switch on both sides, as well as the ambidextrous charging handle. So what makes the A5 stand apart, you got this 2-position gas block. This is one of our piston-driven AR-15s. So all of our piston guns has a removable top section of rail, so you can access the piston system. So you have the piston cup, intermediate rod, and then here's your op rod back here. So every time the gun goes off, this actuates, and any kind of carbon buildup that you're going to see is going to be, as you can see, it's on my hands right there. So on a normal direct impingement rifle, that's what you're going to see building up. On our piston guns, you can see that right there. That black buildup, that's where a majority of your carbon is going to build up on a piston-driven gun. So it's obviously much better to have it way out here out front than to have it inside your upper receiver. I'll put that back on there.
We're not using tools.
Yeah, so that's just our quick, if you need to access your piston system in the field, it's real easy. And to tighten those down, I think you can take like a dime. You go finger tight with it and then go about a quarter turn with a penny or something, so that way it's not over tight. And it's got these washers back here so they tighten them so they won't back off. And that's pretty much the rundown on our ICA5. We have our cold hammer forged barrels that we make in-house. This is a spiral fluted barrel that's going to take about 20% of the weight out of the barrel in itself. It's going to help cool off faster. It actually helps with the harmonics of the bullet, so it actually helps with accuracy a little bit. All of our components are made in-house. We have the nickel boron bolt carrier group, so that's going to be way more resistant to any kind of corrosion. I personally have one of these rifles. It's a SPR model, but I've probably got 3,000 rounds on it. I've never even cleaned the gun, and it's just as shiny as the day I bought it. So I love that about the piston guns. It's zero maintenance. I know I can take it to the range, shoot it, and put it in the safe, and I'm good until next time.
And that's why I got the funky music, because it's a funky gun. And so I support this company. I think you should probably do too. LWRCI makes a quality product. They employ Americans where it's needed. They give good service. This thing is not just your average everyday AR. This is legit. And it's just a bad mother.
This portion of the show is sponsored by CrossbreedHolsters.com. Crossbreed Holsters has gained national recognition as a maker of the best and most functional concealment holsters available on the market today. Each holster is handcrafted to ensure your firearm is safe and secure while carrying, combined with the best customer service in the industry. Visit crossbreedholsters.com.
Speaking of ARs, Michael, you're up next.
Thank you, Ken, and welcome to another Tips and Review segment. I am Michael Woodland of m-wtactical.com, and today we're going to discuss building that custom AR-15. A few weeks ago, we did a series on the AR-15, and after the series, Ken stated that he was getting a lot of positive feedback. Our conversation went on to possibly building an AR-15, and at first I stated I wasn't interested in building one. The only reason being the time and science that goes into it could have you spending more money than needed. After doing some thinking, I stated to him I will accept his challenge. Good thing for me, I know a lot of people in the firearms field who can steer me in the right direction. Like everything else, this is something I do not want to dive into blindfolded, but there will be some thorough research done on my behalf. There has been a few sites that I went to get an idea of what I'm looking for and the direction I would like to go. Not going to say any names of companies as of yet, which I was looking at, but I'm still doing my research. I spoke to my buddy Steve in Charleston, South Carolina, and when we were discussing some gun stuff, he pointed out to me that you can purchase kits where it comes disassembled and you put it together yourself. Of course, everything is there for you to assemble an AR-15. Now, if you have any ideas on the direction you think I want to go, shoot me an email and give me some advice. Since I have long arms, the direction will be something that will have me feeling comfortable shooting standing, kneeling, and in a prone. When this project starts, the next phase, I will let you know. Until next week, keep the trigger pull level and your sight picture steady. If you haven't done so, get on the M-W Tactical Facebook page and hit the like button and share your firearms thoughts with us. If you would like to stay in touch with the information we put out on Twitter, follow us at M_W Tactical. If you want to see the pictures of our adventures on and off the range, follow us on Instagram at Munitions Weapons Tactical. If you would like to read more about us and see what and where we will be next, visit www.m-wtactical.com and stay informed. If you want to ask a question or just send us a note, you can either by calling 803-250-1256. Leave a message and we will return your call, or just email us at info@m-wtactical.com. Until next week, keep shooting, keep practicing, and have fun. Back to you, Ken.
Thanks, man. And just for you guys in the Maryland, D.C., and Virginia area, just know that I am working on a build an AR thing that we're doing for the Fun Gun Social Club. It's the club that I started just to engage with some folks locally. And it's social. So we're doing some bar hopping, some cigar smoking, some fishing, some hunting, some stuff outside of the norm for a gun club. But one of the things we're going to do, we're going to build ARs. And maybe I can get LWRCI involved. And how cool would that be? For more information about that, you can check out fungunclub.com. This portion of the show is brought to you by the United States Concealed Carry Association. The USCCA has been providing education, training, and self-defense insurance to responsibly armed Americans since 2003. Join Tim Schmidt and myself here at usconcealedcarry.com. So last week I got a chance to go to Cambridge, Maryland, and you can't go there without noticing the history of the area. And I hinted to it before. But one of the most prolific and most famous people of Cambridge and that area is Harriet Tubman. She was born to enslaved parents in Dorchester County, Maryland. She was originally named Araminta Harriet Ross. Her mother, Harriet Ritt Green, was owned by Mary Pattison Broadus. Her father, Ben Ross, was owned by Anthony Thompson, who eventually married Mary Broadus. Araminta, or Minty as she was called, was one of 9 children born to Rit and Ben between 1808 and 1832. These are Harriet Tubman's parents. While the year of Araminta's birth is unknown, it probably occurred between 1820 and 1825. Minty's early life was full of hardship. Mary Broadus's son, Edward, sold 3 of her sisters to distant plantations, which severed the family. When a slave trader from Georgia approached Broadus about buying Rit's youngest son, Moses, Rit successfully resisted the further fracturing of her family, setting a powerful example for her young daughter. So historically, we know her as Harriet Tubman. Her mother's name was Harriet Rit, and her name given to her was Araminta or Minty Harriet Ross. So those names kind of flow back and forth in the history. But physical violence was a part of the daily life for Harriet and her family. The violence she suffered early in life caused permanent physical injury. Harriet later recounted a particular day when she was lashed 5 times before breakfast. She carried the scars for the rest of her life. The most severe injury occurred when Tubman was a teen. Sent to a dry goods store for supplies, she encountered a slave who had left, basically run away from the fields, and when an overseer demanded that Tubman help restrain that runaway, and after she refused, the overseer threw a 2-pound weight that struck her in the head, and she suffered seizures and headaches and narcoleptic episodes for the rest of her life. She also experienced an intense dream state, which she classified as a religious experience. The line between freedom and slavery was hazy for Harriet and her family. Her father, Ben, was freed from slavery at the age of 45, as stipulated in the will of a previous owner. Nonetheless, Ben had few options but to continue working as a timber estimator and foreman for his former owners. Although similar manumission stipulations applied to her mother and her children, the individuals who owned the family chose not to free them. Despite his free status, Ben had little power to challenge their decision. By the time Harriet reached adulthood, around half of the African American people on the eastern shore of Maryland were free. It was not unusual for a family to include both free and enslaved people as Harriet's immediate family. In 1844, Harriet married a free black man named John Tubman. Little is known about John Tubman or his marriage to Harriet. Any children they might have had would have been considered enslaved, since mother's status dictated that any of the offspring would be the same. Araminta, Minty, changed her name to Harriet around the time of her marriage, possibly to honor her mom. Harriet Tubman escaped from slavery in 1849, fleeing to Philadelphia. Tubman decided to escape following a bout of illness and the death of her owner in 1849. She feared that her family would be severed even further and feared for her own fate as a sickly slave of low economic value. She initially left Maryland with 2 of her brothers, Ben and Henry, on September 17, 1849. A notice published in the Cambridge Democrat offered a $300 reward for the return of Minty, Harry, and Ben. Once they had left, Tubman's brothers had second thoughts and returned to the plantation. Harriet had no plans to remain in bondage. Seeing her brother safely home, she soon left off for Pennsylvania. Tubman made use of a network known as the Underground Railroad to travel nearly 90 miles to Philadelphia. She crossed into the free state of Pennsylvania with a feeling of relief and awe, and recalled later, quote, "When I found I had crossed the line, I looked at my hands to see if I was the same person. There was such a glory over everything. The sun came like gold through the trees and over the fields, and I felt like I was in heaven." You have to be on the rural part of the farm part of the Eastern Shore to know the terrain, the swamps, the marsh, the water, the heat, and to imagine walking, running, hiding all these miles to Philadelphia. Rather than remaining in the safety of the North, Harriet made it her mission to rescue her family and others living in slavery. In December 1850, Harriet received a warning that her niece, Keisha, was going to be sold, along with 2 young children, Keisha's husband, a free black man named John Bowley, made the winning bid for his wife at an auction in Baltimore. Harriet then helped the entire family make the journey to Philadelphia. This was the first of many trips of Tubman, who earned the name Moses for her leadership. Over time, she was able to guide her parents, several siblings, and others to freedom. Now, I was looking at some old historical records and got some facts and myths and stuff in there. Because I've read that there's been like a whole bunch of people. Here's what I got as far as real numbers. According to Harriet's own words, the extensive documentation on her rescue missions, we know that she rescued about 70 people, family and friends, during approximately 13 trips to Maryland. During public and private meetings during 1858 and 1859, she repeatedly told people that she had rescued 50 to 60 people in 8 or 9 trips. This was before her last mission in December 1860, when she brought away 7 people. Sarah Bradford exaggerated the numbers in her 1868 biography. Bradford never said that Tubman gave her those numbers, but rather Bradford estimated that that was the number. Other friends who were close to Tubman specifically contradicted those numbers, and we can name practically every person Tubman helped, in addition to the family and friends. Tubman also gave instructions to another 70 or freedom seekers from the Eastern Shore who found their way to freedom on their own. There's a myth that Harriet Tubman had a 40,000 dead or alive bounty on her head, and that's not true. The only reward for Tubman's capture is the October 3rd, 1849 advertisement for the return of Minty and her brothers Ben and Harriet I talked about before. Slaveholders on the Eastern Shore of Maryland had no idea it was Harriet Tubman, or Minty Ross as they knew her, who was helping and inspiring people to run away. The 40,000 bounty figure was made up by Sally Holly, a former anti-slavery activist in New York, who wrote a letter to a newspaper in 1867 arguing for support for Tubman in her pursuit of back pay and pension from the Union Army. So to put that in perspective, the U.S. government offered $50,000 for the capture of John Wilkes Booth, who murdered President Lincoln in 1865. $40,000 is equivalent to several million today, and for that she would have been captured, and every newspaper in the nation would have posted that advertisement. One of the best myths I wish was true was that Harriet Tubman rescued people from all over the South, and the fact that she really only did it to Maryland to bring away loved ones, family, and friends she could not live without or whom she could trust. See, it was too dangerous for her to go to places where she did not know people or the landscape. You see, just because you're black don't mean you're going to follow and be trustworthy. Sometimes you'll see a picture or a bust depicting Harriet Tubman carrying a rifle on her Underground Railroad rescue missions. And the fact of it is, though, she carried a small pistol with her on her rescue missions, mostly for protection from slave catchers, but also to encourage weak-hearted runaways from turning back and risking the safety of the rest of the group. Tubman carried a sharpshooter's rifle during the Civil War, though. In the show notes, you'll see a picture of Tubman's pistol and a saber. They're on display at Florida A&M University's Black Archives in Tallahassee, Florida. Here's some more facts you probably don't hear anywhere else either. One of the things you're doing when you're doing covert operations sometimes is you will give a password, a parole, a sign that it's either clear or not clear, or the people are the right people. Tubman sang 2 songs while operating her rescue missions. Both are listed in Sarah Bradford's biography, Scenes in the Life of Harriet Tubman. One of them is Go Down Moses and Bound for the Promised Land. Tubman says she changed the tempo of the songs to indicate whether it was safe to come out or not. Following the Drinking Gourd was first written and performed by the Weavers, a white folk group, in 1947, nearly 100 years after Tubman's days on the Underground Railroad. Swing Low, Sweet Chariot was written and composed after the Civil War by a Cherokee Indian living in Oklahoma, and therefore would have been unknown to Tubman before the Civil War. Some people think that Swing Low, Sweet Chariot and Wade in the Water and Follow the Drinking Gourd were the signals, but the real song was Go Down Moses and Bound for the Promised Land. Harriet Tubman remained active during the Civil War, working for the Union Army as a cook and a nurse. Tubman quickly became an armed scout and a spy. She was the first woman to lead an armed expedition in the war. She guided the Combahee River raid, which liberated more than 700 slaves in South Carolina. In early 1859, abolitionist Senator William H. Seward sold Tubman a small piece of land on the outskirts of Auburn, New York. The land in Auburn became a haven for Tubman's family and friends. Tubman spent the years following the war on this property, tending to her family and others who had taken up residence there. In 1869, she married a Civil War veteran named Nelson Davis. In 1874, Harriet and Nelson adopted a baby girl named Gertie. Despite her fame and reputation, she was never financially secure. Tubman's friends and supporters were able to raise some funds to support her. One admirer, one I keep mentioning, Sarah H. Bradford, wrote a biography entitled Scenes in the Life of Harriet Tubman, with the proceeds going to Tubman and her family. Harriet continued to give freely in spite of her economic woes. In 1903, she donated a parcel of her land to the African Methodist Episcopal Church in Auburn. The Harriet Tubman Home for the Aged opened on this site in 1908. As Tubman got older, the head injuries sustained early in her life became more painful and disruptive. She underwent brain surgery at Boston's Massachusetts General Hospital to alleviate the pains and the, quote, buzzing she was experiencing regularly. Tubman was eventually admitted into a rest home named in her honor. Surrounded by friends and family, she died of pneumonia in 1913. Harriet Tubman, widely known and well respected while she was alive, became an American icon in the years after she died. She was buried with military honors at Fort Hill Cemetery in Auburn. The city commemorated her life with a plaque on the courthouse. Tubman was celebrated in many other ways throughout the nation in the 20th century. Dozens of schools were named in her honor, and both Harriet Tubman Home in Auburn and the Harriet Tubman Museum in Cambridge serve as monuments to her life. Financial difficulties is keeping or preventing the museum in Cambridge from opening as much as it could. And did you know that on April in 2016, the U.S. Treasury Department announced that Harriet Tubman will replace Andrew Jackson on the center of the new $20 bill? And the announcement came after the Treasury Department received a groundswell of public comments following Women on $20 campaign, calling for a notable American woman to appear on U.S. currency. Secretary Lou's choice of the freed slave and freedom fighter Harriet Tubman to one day feature on the $20 note is an exciting one, especially given that she emerged as a choice of more than 500,000 voters in an online poll. Women on 20s stated on this website, not only did she devote her life to racial equality, she fought for women's rights alongside the nation's leading suffragists. And as proof of the ignorance today, folks are arguing about that because of how she looked. Underground Railroad conductor Harriet Tubman, born in Dorchester County, near Cambridge, near where the LWRCI company is today. It's kind of cool. It's two good reasons to go to Cambridge. There is a huge resort there now that the Hyatt has built. And fishing off the Choptank River is still great, and crabbing as well. It's about 70 miles outside of the D.C. line, and you won't be disappointed if you go to this resort. It's pretty cool. I want to thank LWRCI for just being who you are, for showing me not trying to, I was just a fly on the wall. I mean, I was just with some really cool people checking out the plant, and they impressed the mess out of me. They have no idea on the effect it had on me. Watching real people enjoy their job, making good stuff. It's like going to a Ferrari company, a Ferrari plant, seeing the attention to detail and the pride in the job, and then looking at the rifles themselves and going, I want 1, 2, 3 of these. Special thanks and big hugs to my sisters, Barbara Baird and Carrie Lightfoot, for letting me be a strap hanger and getting a chance to get in on the fun. If you're looking for another podcast to check out, make sure you go to the Women's Gun Show, where they are the boss. Hope you enjoyed my little recap of my trip to Cambridge and the little history that comes with it, with a little bit of Harriet Tubman stuff thrown in there. There are some cool rifles at LWRCI, and if you get a chance, check out the website. And if you buy something, let me know. Send photos, pictures. I'm trying to redo my Instagram account. That's Black Man with Gun. You'll find it on Instagram. Also, Twitter, Black Man with a Gun, and the Facebook page, Black Man with a Gun 1. You see the A is missing on Instagram and on Twitter. But you can get the whole word at blackmanwithagun.com and Black Man with a Gun 1 on Facebook. Don't forget to check out Michael J. Woodland's positive post and all the exciting things that he's doing on Instagram and on his website at m-wtactical.com. Just a reminder that there's a free app for the Black Man with a Gun Show podcast, and all my social media links, you can get it on iTunes and at Google for the iPhone and for the Samsung version. Free app. Get it directly to your phone without any problem whatsoever. There are links in all the posts on blackmanwithagun.com. Christopher Robin told Winnie the Pooh, "You are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think." And I think it applies to you too. Just in case nobody told you this today, I love you, and there's not a darn thing you can do about it. This is your friend and your brother, Ken Blanchard. Until next week, stay cool. Shalom, baby.
Until next time, friends.
To keep in touch with Ken and his cause, head over to blackmanwithagun.com.